back for another Bible study. If you know, get your Bibles out and let's begin. It's been about a couple of weeks. I know I said me and my brother was gonna do some videos, and we will. It's just that getting our schedules to connect is has been the issue, but you know, we will get it together and we will do a video together, you know, doing our little sermon, you know. But just to remind you, we are in the book of Romans. And so last time I think we did chapter 9 and 10. So, well, not last week, like 3 weeks ago. Today we are going to do chapters 11 chapter 11 and 12. Book of Romans, chapter 11 and 12 today, people. And I'm just going to give you a little time to get your Bibles out. Turn into chapter Romans. Turn into Book of Romans, chapter 11 and 12. I would highly suggest that you look at my other videos as well. And, you know, it's just very inspirational, and then just, you know, get to know me and my different personalities. Because you're going to see, like, my different personalities come out on these videos. I have, you know, the goofy side, the serious side, silly side, you know, so you're going to see a lot of it. It comes out in the video, but today I'm probably a bit more serious because I'm dealing with an infection in my mouth from a dentist had pulled. I had my teeth pulled, and my teeth started to shift and to cover up the hole, and so it was just painful, and then some kind of way it called an infection, and so yeah, I don't know. But, you know, I've been eating healthy, you know, I'm always brushing, gargling. I even gargle with peroxide, you know, so I don't know how that, only thing I could think of is maybe, because I eat out a lot, you know, maybe I ate something somebody prepared that wasn't probably clean or something, and, you know, maybe that's how I got the infection, you know, which is why I should probably cook more, you know, but I probably should eat at home more, but I tend to go the quick route and just, you know, have the food already done, just pick it up. I do enjoy to cook and bake, but I just kind of have gotten away from it. But anyway, I'm rambling, and let's get to Book of Romans, chapter 11 and 12. Paul says God did not reject his people. He recalls a passage about Elijah, of which says, Lord, they have killed your prophets and torn down your altars. I am the only one left, and they are trying to kill me. God says to Elijah, I have reserved for myself 7,000 who have not bowed the knee to Baal. Paul says at this present time, there is a remnant chosen by grace. And he says, if by grace, it is not based on works. If it were, grace will no longer be grace. Paul says the Israelites sought to obtain God's grace, but did not get it. But God's chosen did. You know, that's something to think about, because the Israelites, you know, at this time, they had, I guess, became like big-headed. They just felt like they could do whatever they wanted to do. God was going to forgive them. They're going to be blessed. And they thought they were the chosen. And so God let them know, like, yeah, you were, but you disobeyed me. So now there's going to be a new group of people that's going to come in, and they're going to be the chosen, you know. So, and, you know, as I spoke about, you know, earlier, you know, it was to make them jealous to do right, but it didn't necessarily work out that way. They still wanted to do what they wanted to do. And then Paul, you know, says, you know, it's by grace and not based on works. So when God chose, you know, his chosen people, it was by his grace, his kindness, his, you know, it had nothing to do with their works. It had nothing to do with how bad of, you know, sinners that humans thought they were. You know, it had nothing to do with that. It was God's grace. But let's move on. I'm going to read that last part again. It said, if it were grace, if by grace it is not based on works. If it were, grace would no longer be grace. Paul says the Israelites sought to obtain God's grace, but did not get it, but God's chosen did. It is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes that could not see and ears that could not hear, to this very day. Paul recalls the words of David. May their table become a snare of a trap, a stumbling block and a retribution for them. May their eyes be darkened so they cannot see, and their backs be bent forever. So, like, their own works of their hands will not serve them a good purpose. And their eyes were spiritually darkened, not like physically darkened, but like spiritually darkened to where they didn't, you know, they didn't see the things spiritually that God wanted them to see in order, you know, to help them grow spiritually. Because, you know, while we're here, you know, we need to grow spiritually. And they were blocked because of their disobedience to God. And, you know, it says they won't be able to understand the things of God. And they will not be well of sickness, you know. So the Israelites that sought to obtain God's grace did not get it, but God chosen it. That's something, you know, amazing, you know. And if it wasn't for their disobedience, you know how many people would be lost? So in a sense, their disobedience actually saved a lot of lost people, because their disobedience kind of opened up the door for people who were lost to come in. Because at first, God had just only chose, you know, the Israelites, anybody that was Israelite. But then when they became disobedient, God opened the door for other people to come in that, you know, would obey God. But let's continue. Salvation came to the Gentiles to make the Jews envious. And that's like what I said earlier. And I think I said in previous videos. But Paul says it's here. Chapter 11, book of Romans. Salvation came to the Gentiles to make the Jews envious. Paul asks if Israel's transgression means riches for the world. Their loss means riches for the Gentiles. How much greater riches will their full inclusion bring? Gentiles, do not get arrogant, because just like God broke off the Jew from the branch, he will do the same to you. He can also graft the Jew back in the tree once he or she believes in God again. Israel has experienced a hardening in part until the full number of Gentiles has come in, and in this way all Israel will be saved. It is written, the deliverer will come from Zion. He will turn godliness away from Jacob, and this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. And so let me go into like a couple of vocabulary words, and I like to do the vocabulary words because you don't know what you're reading if you don't look up what words mean. So when I'm doing these notes, I try to look up the words that people may not know what they mean. And so let's go back to when Paul asks if Israel's transgressions mean riches for the world. And transgressions, actually, is an act that goes against a law, rule, or code of conduct or an offense. Yeah. So basically, an offense. So Paul asks if Israel's offense means riches for the world. Their loss means riches for the Gentiles. The Gentiles is the non-Jews. How much greater riches will the Jews' full inclusion will bring? So pretty much what I said earlier, the Jews' disobedience made a way for the Gentiles to come in, the non-Jews. And Paul is saying, if that was good, how much greater will it be when the Israelites, the original Israelites, realize who they are and follow God again, and be grafted back into the tree of life. So, inclusion, means the action or act of including or of being included within a group or structure. So inclusion means bringing the Israelites that, slipped away, bringing them back to the tree. And Paul said, Gentiles, do not get arrogant, because just like God broke off the Jew from the branch, he will do the same to you. He can also graft the Jew back in the tree once he or she believes in God again. Graft means a shoot or twig inserted into a slit on the trunk or stem of a living plant from which it receives sap. That makes sense. Graft, because he said he was going to graft the Jews back into the tree of life. And Israel has experienced the hardening in part until the full number of Gentiles has come in, and in this way all Israel will be saved. It is written, the deliverer will come from Zion. He will turn godliness away from Jacob. And this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. Zion, the hill of Jerusalem, on which the city of David was built. Jerusalem. Excuse me, I burped. Jerusalem. I mean, in my opinion, when the Bible talks about Jerusalem, I think it's talking about heaven. Jerusalem, I think, is another word for heaven. But, you know, some people may disagree. I don't think it's talking about, you know, where Jerusalem is at today. You know, I don't think it's talking about physical Jerusalem. I think it's talking about, you know, the new Jerusalem that, you know, that's in heaven. Zion is also called by Christians the heavenly city or kingdom of heaven. And of course, covenant is an agreement. Yeah. Short and sweet, an agreement. Gentiles are enemies for Israel's sake, but they are loved on account of the patriarchs. And the patriarchs are the patriarchs are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The time period they live is called the patriarchal age. The patriarchs are the male head of a family or tribe. And the patriarchs of Israel or Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Gentiles are enemies for Israel's sake. So yeah, you know, so Gentiles are also enemies for Israel's sake. Even though Israel's disobedience helped the Gentiles disobedience also helps the Israelites. So it's like, it's kind of funny how both helps each other. Because the Gentiles, well, let Paul say this. So Gentiles are enemies for Israel's sake, but they are loved on account of the patriarchs. And the patriarchs, once again, are Abraham. It's paper. Are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And for God's gifts and his call is irrevocable. Again, Gentiles are enemies for Israel's sake, but they are loved on account of the patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. For God's gifts and his call is irrevocable. Irrevocable, not able to change, reverse, or recover. It is a final decision. So God's gifts and calls to his people cannot change. He won't change it. He made it, whatever gift or call he gave you before you was born, that's what you're going to have. You know, that ain't going to work. You know, this is how it is. It's irrevocable. Once, Israel, you were disobedient, but now receives mercy from God as a result of the Gentiles' disobedience. They too have become disobedient, so they too may now receive mercy as a result of God's mercy to you. God has bound everyone over to disobedience, so he may have mercy on them all. Yeah, so he bound everyone to disobedience. So the disobedience from both sides is actually helps both sides. And so it goes on to the doxology. And, you know, the doxology is a liturgical formula of praise to God. And liturgical means a form or formulary according to which public religious worship, especially Christian worship, is conducted. So, and let's go. And formularity is a collection of formulas or set forms, especially for use in religious ceremonies. So a doxology is it's a set way of praise to God. It's kind of like you know, well, not kind of like, but when you go to church and there's like, you do the praise first and you may read some, you know, inspirational poems or something, and then you do, you may listen to some meditation, like meditative music. Then there's the sermon, and then, you know, there's announcements. You know, it's like it's a, you know, it's a doxology. It's just a set form of praise that everybody just kind of, if you belong to church, you just know what comes next. So, and conducted, you know, liturgical, go over the vocabulary again. Doxology is a liturgical formula of praise to God. I may not be saying that word right, because sometimes my words just, you know, don't want to come out right. It be sounding good in my head, but then it, you know. But liturgical is a form or formulary according to which public religious worship, especially Christian worship, is conducted. Formulary, a collection of formulas or set forms especially for use in religious ceremonies. Conducted means led by a guide or managed. You know, so yeah. And usually, you know, the doxology is conducted by the pastor or priest. You know, usually. Sometimes it could be, you know, other people that work within the church. It just depends on what church you go to. Let's move on to the doxology. This is Paul speaking again. He said, "Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out." His paths beyond tracing out means we cannot trace his paths. It's untraceable because he's God, you know. Paul says, and I repeat, "Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out. Who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been his counselor? Who has ever given to God that God should repay them? For from him and through him and for him are all things. To God be the glory forever. Amen." Yes, Lord. And that's true. Who, you know, who has ever given to God that God should repay them? Nobody. You can't give nothing to God. You know, like some people say, "I'm going to give this, you know, to God." And God, look, everything belongs to me. So God, like, everything belongs to me. So how you going to give something to me? When God say give, he's saying give so you can help other people. Not him. He don't need help. We need his help, you know. Paul says, who has been his counselor? Who can sit and counsel God? You know, no human, no being can sit and counsel God. We need his counsel. We need his guidance. He's not lost. We're lost. You know, it's how humans sometimes just get in their head that they just know it all. They think they're gods. They think they're goddesses. I'm just like, y'all don't even know the half of it. So you cannot call yourself a god or a goddess, and you don't even know the half of your existence, your being, how you even became. You know, it's just ridiculous how some people think. But I know they think that way because of, you know, these dark forces, you know, these, you know, spirits that, you know, are in high places, and they're tricking a lot of people and manipulating a lot of people. And I'm not saying, you know, like I'm high and mighty and like I can't get manipulated. We all can get Anybody can. You're never to. Don't ever think that don't ever think that you're so righteous that you cannot get manipulated by these evil spirits. These things are ancient. They know how to manipulate you. The best you can do is to keep your head in your Bible and to pray every day so you don't get tricked and manipulated. But even the best sometimes fall. But the good thing about God is when we fall, he's there to pick us up when we reach out our hand and ask for help. Because he is a merciful, merciful God. And we are his children and he loves us. So you ask for forgiveness, he's there. Pick you up, dust you off. And, come on, let's begin again. But let me read that doxology again because that's wonderful. Oh, the depths of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out. Who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been his counselor? Who has ever given to God that God should repay them? For from him and through him and for him are all things. All things made. To him be the glory. Father Yahweh, to all glory and praise to Father Yahweh. And Yeshua, amen. Let's move on to chapter 12. This is a short one. Paul urges us, in view of God's mercy, to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. He says this is true, proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will for us. And God's will for us is always good, never evil. And so we offer our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. The things that we go through, the troubles, the heartbreak, the trials, the tribulations, that is the sacrifice that's pleasing to God. A broken and contrite heart, is a sacrifice, that's pleasing to God. I think I'm saying that right. It's a Bible verse, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a Bible verse that's says there about a broken and contrite heart. But, and you have some people who just want to take things a little bit too far, and then they'll say, they think God is talking about killing oneself or killing somebody else, or no, it does not say that. Sacrifice does not, and I don't know what made people think sacrifice automatically means killing. Sacrifice does not automatically means killing. You could sacrifice your time. You can sacrifice, you could sacrifice anything. It does not. And God doesn't want you to kill yourself or anybody. So if you got that in your head, that's the devil. Rebuke it in the name of Yeshua. And Yeshua, that's Jesus, Hebrew name. So you could say Jesus or Yeshua. I just prefer to say Yeshua because that's the most likely, that's the name that he was called. He wasn't, when he was on earth, they wasn't calling him Jesus. They was most likely calling him Yeshua. You know, Jesus is just the English translation of Yeshua. But he was called Yeshua, so that's why. You know, or some people call me Yehoshua. But I don't do all that. I just say Yeshua. You know, that's, you know, what I can pronounce. God know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Paul says, do not think you are more than what you are. Think of yourself humbly. We all have gifts from God. Use your gifts according to the grace given to you. So it was some people in this church that just, you know, they had certain gifts that from God. Apparently, you know, because we all have certain gifts. Believe it or not, seer is in the Bible, and there were some prophets were seers. They could, you know, see spirits, hear spirits, you know, talk to spirits, talk to God, you know, and not like a medium, not like, you know, the difference between that and those people that call themselves mediums and witches and stuff is that it wasn't natural. It wasn't a gift that was given to them by God. That's what makes it an abomination, is when you are trying to take a gift that doesn't belong to you. And that's when it becomes an abomination, when you have these witches and these people out here, you know, wanting the gift of being a seer or whatever, or a prophet. And so they get or obtain those gifts from demons, not from God. And then that's what makes it just an abomination. It makes it, you know, horrible. But being a seer or being a prophet in the Bible was a good thing. You know, it wasn't a bad thing, because it was how God communicated to his people at the time. And there are, you know, seers today, but it's just kind of hard to trust a lot of them in the church, because it's a lot of devils in the church pretending to be seers, pretending to be prophets, and they getting their information from devils, because they did it even in biblical days. It was a lot of prophets and seers that was getting their information from demons, and Paul called them out. And in previous chapters, if you go back on my videos, you see what I'm talking about. But on previous chapters, Paul called them out and let them know that he knew what they was doing and God knew what they was doing. But they don't care, because they know what they're doing. They don't care that God know or we know what they're doing. As long as they can fool people and trick people, like, and manipulate people, like, that's their main goal. And they're satisfied with that, you know. But I say most likely, you know, the seers and the prophets, I do believe, are still out there. We're still out, you know, out there. And I just, but you're not gonna find them. They're not going to be out in open. Anytime somebody openly, you know, I don't know, is promoting themselves, like saying that they are prophets and seers and stuff, you gotta be wary of those people. You know, those saying, don't pull your own coattail, you know. It's something like this old saying, you know. You know, don't put yourself on a high horse, you know. And it's like, yeah, it's a lot of fake ones in the church. And it's like, you could just, the devil just reeks on them. And But yeah, I don't know if I would be considered a seer or a prophet. Probably I would, because I do, um, I can see spirits, you know, and I see them, I hear them. I don't talk to them. No, because God said you don't talk, you don't talk to no spirits, and ain't no spirit talking to me. Because if they do, I'm rebuking them in the name of Yeshua. I talk to God and God only. You know, I ain't communicating with nothing. But it's a gift that's, in my family. It's a lot of people in my, family that has the gift to, see spirits. Yeah, I've seen, I've seen some stuff. Um, and so yeah, and messages, that have came true, but I don't really, I don't broadcast it. If you know me, then you know me, like I'll tell, if it's a message for somebody, I'll tell them, it's up to them what they do with that message, you know. But but yeah, just wanna. But I believe I've said that before in my previous videos. I have dreams, I have visions. I get it from my mom, because my mom is the same way, We have dreams, we have visions, things happening, and they happen, you know. The good, the bad. But what I've learned, and what I've also learned from my mom is that when you have bad, when you see the bad, a lot of times it's a warning, and it's to stop it, and to rebuke it. And if you are the type of person that you have dreams or visions and they're constantly always bad, you gotta rebuke them, because a lot of times it's not from God. It be the devil trying to get in and make things happen through you. There's just the problem with, being open. Being open, like, if you hear a noise in the background, that's my dog, Sparky. He's just whining because he's mad because he wants me to go to bed, He's like a little old man. But ignore that noise in the background. That's Sparky walking back on the hardwood floors and whining. But anyway, I'm off topic. Let's get back. Chapter 12, Book of Romans. Paul says, do not think you're more than what you are. Think of yourself humbly. We all have gifts from God. Use your gifts according to the grace given to you. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Don't ever think that you're too good, that you cannot sit with someone that you think is lower than you. Because, look, ain't nobody lower than you. We all on the same path. And people just got to get that out of their head, thinking they better than somebody, or they think they're less than somebody. Nobody is better or less than the other. We're all, we're all on the same page, learning. Some of us know more than others, but that doesn't mean just because you don't know something that you're less than, That's the whole purpose of, people finding out things, and so they can help and then teach others, But not knowing something don't make you less than somebody that does know something, You know, nobody's better than the other. We're all on the same road trying to get to Jesus, trying to get to heaven. You know, well, some of us are, because then there's the other half of us who don't want to get who don't want to get to Jesus, but they want to trick people and manipulate people away from Jesus. Paul continues to say, do not be conceited, do not repay evil for evil, be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live in peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. And that's the end of chapter 12, which is a good ending because it's very true, you know, and humbling. You know, a lot of times you want to do evil to a person because they did evil to you, you know, but it doesn't help. It doesn't solve anything. Being evil to someone who's being evil to you doesn't solve anything. You know, if anything, it makes the situation worse. So be good to people and you'll be blessed. And it's hard. I know. I went through a little phase there at one point. It's hard. But it's not impossible. It's possible. Sometimes you just gotta take a deep breath. Sometimes you just gotta take a deep breath and breathe in. And relax. And so, yeah. Don't repay evil with good. Doesn't solve it. It's a temporary relief. Where you know, be like, well, you think you got somebody back, but really, you haven't. Because if somebody doing evil to you, most likely they like you. You know, so when you're doing evil to them back, that's what they want. They want you to be evil to them back. But when you be nice to someone who's being evil to you, that burns them on the inside. Because they're like, I mean, it just burns them, you know. So, be nice to everyone. Keep a good attitude. Be humble. Don't think you're better than anybody else. And, yeah, you be blessed. And this pretty much sums it all up of chapter 12 and 13. And so, this ends. See you guys next time. And peace, love, and hair grease.